Hello everyone, a warm welcome to this session. I'm Piyush and I'm going to be your main host in the session today. This is going to be a very interesting session where we are going to talk about how to go from 600s to 7 all the way to 750 plus. So if you're someone who is stuck in the 600 score range, like 650, 670, the likes of those, like the high 600, then how do you make the final push, make the final sprint towards the 750? So what is the right mindset that a high scorer should follow? So a warm welcome to all of you guys. Hope all of you can hear me loud and clear. So if you guys can hear me loud and clear, it will be great if you can just tell me that in the chat, and feel free to go ahead and introduce yourself. I would like to know about more about you guys. What is the current stage of your GMAT preparation? Tell me more about how long have you been preparing for the GMAT, and what are the problems that you are facing right now with your preparation. So when you tell me that, I get to know your current skill level better, and accordingly, if required, I can actually tune the session in that way. So I can actually change a few things in the session, focus more on your problem areas that you want me to cover. So it will be great if you guys can go ahead and tell me very quickly about yourself. All right, so it will be very great if you guys can tell me about yourself. And if you can hear the audio well, please write in the comments. I think the audio should be fine. And in the meantime, you guys introduce yourself and tell me about yourself. I will quickly introduce myself as well. So I'm Piyush Beriwala. I'm going to be the main host of the session today. Bit about myself. A long time back, I actually was a student myself. I prepared for the GMAT. I have a first-hand experience of doing that. And I remember studying for 6 months properly for GMAT. And even after that, I was still able to get just a 13 percentile in my very first ever verbal test that I took. I mean, the mock test that I took. So my very first mock test, the score was just a 13 percentile in verbal. And on the quant side, I scored a quant 50 in the first mock itself. Like after 6 months of preparation that I did. So I was very good in quant, and very bad at verbal. Now, why am I telling you this? The reason I'm telling you this is to help you understand that I'm someone who has been stuck in the same score range for a long time. I was there in that same score range, in fact, slightly lower than that for a long time. I saw my verbal score fluctuating between 25% to 70% in different tests. On good days, it used to be as high as 70 percentile. Sometimes it was as low as 25 percentile also. And despite all these things, I was still able to improve my score to a verbal 41 in my very first GMAT attempt. And I've scored an overall 740 in my very first GMAT attempt. Now, this was almost like 4 or 5 years back, and I have about 8 or 9 years of experience in the industry, in the edtech space, where I helped a lot of students. Even after completing my GMAT, I've helped a lot of students with their GMAT. I have helped a lot of students with their admissions. So I have helped people get into all kind of schools. You think of Harvard, Wharton, Stanford, INSEAD, any top B school across the globe. I have helped people get in there with the strategies. So today, what I'm going to talk about is basically a lot of things which I have gained from my own experience of writing the GMAT, as well as the experience that I've gained over the years, helping so many different people. Have helped people who came to me at a low scale of 520, and I've helped them get up to a 760 as well. There have been cases where people have come to me with 300s and they have been able to score 600 plus on GMAT. There are many cases where people have scored 770s, 760s on a regular basis working with us. So today I'm going to talk about some core problems, some core issues that most of these people face. So at a very high level, some common issues that I hear from most of the people, and please guys feel free to share your common problems as well that you guys face. So thank you, Siddhant, for telling me that you can hear me well, and I would have happy to know that you have just started preparing for GMAT. This session is going to help you in understanding. In fact, the first part of the session is actually about understanding the test also. So it will help you in understanding what not to do when you're preparing and what to focus on. Andre says I've prepared between 6 and 12 months is what I have given to the GMAT prep. That's quite a significant amount of time. So you were probably at the same stage where I was at when I was struggling with verbal, most likely. Tibabat says I'm in the 7th month of my prep and stuck around 660-ish. Tibabat, you're in the right place. I'm going to talk about these aspects. All right, so let's talk about some of the common concerns that I hear. Many people tell me that, Piyush, you know what, like, and just to give you an idea, on an average, I speak to about 5 to 7 new students on a daily basis. That's like speaking to about 2,000 students in the entire year. So you guys can do the calculations yourself to understand that. And when I speak to these people, most of the people tell me that, Piyush, you know what, one of the biggest reasons I'm struggling is because I'm actually stuck with two choices in the end, the last two choices in the end. I am able to bring it down to the last two choices, especially in verbal. I don't know how to move forward from there. Many people tell me that I can actually solve questions accurately without the time limit. If there's no time management, in fact, right now I have a comment from someone whose YouTube handle is doing here made easy. She says, I have an issue with time management. I barely finish my mocks. What do I do? So same story. Like I hear it from a lot of people that I can solve questions accurately without the time limit, but I don't know how to solve it in just 2 minutes. How do I do that? If I am able to manage my time, I can probably do well on the test. Many people tell me that I score 80 plus percentile or percentage accuracy on the practice time, on during my practice and during the OG questions that I'm solving, but my mock scores are not even close to that. Many people tell me that I've studied every single thing and I'm still not able to kind of break the 650 barrier. I don't know why I'm not able to do that. The biggest part is that they're not sure exactly why they're actually having these issues. Okay, so okay, I think Aman, my internet should be fine. I'm working with a 200 Mbps connection, and they were to thank you for telling that the video is fine. So that's great. So please try rejoining or reloading the page. It might help in many cases. Okay, so these are some of the common issues. In fact, I speak to a lot of students. In any of you wants to talk to me about your GMAT preparation and how our team GMATWhiz can help you with that, you can use this link which I've just shared in the chat to kind of connect with me as well. Okay, so this is just some of the problems. Now I'm going to talk about all these issues and a lot more of them, and I'm going to answer all these questions for you. So how I've structured this session is basically in terms of 5 proven steps to 750. Now it just says 5 strategies, but it's like steps, some 5 steps that you guys have to go through in order to improve your score. The first and foremost step is to basically understand the GMAT. Now some of you might be thinking, Piyush, what are you telling me? Like, I understand the GMAT. I know all the question types that is tested on GMAT. I know GMAT is an adaptive algorithm. But today you're going to get a very different perspective towards the GMAT test in general. Because if you don't understand in reality how the GMAT functions, no matter what you do, you're not going to get close to your target score. Because it's very important for you to really understand what the test you are. Okay, Bhargavi, don't worry. If your score is fluctuating between 590 and 680, that's one of the things is also related to understanding the GMAT properly. And I'll cover that aspect as well. Then we'll talk about, once you understand the GMAT, then we'll talk about RCA, root cause analysis, basically. How to identify the root cause. Because see, most of the people focus on fringe things like or symptoms of the problem, which is timing, which is getting stuck in two choices, or let's say not being able to do well in verbal, or being scoring low in SC or CR, or things like these. But what you need to understand is that the root cause could be completely different from what you're thinking is the root cause. And unless you understand the right problem, you cannot solve it. So after understanding the root cause, we'll understand what is the solution and how can you master the solution. And then we will try to weave an action plan through the entire thing after understanding all of it. And once we are done with that, we will talk about the D-Day delivery, because obviously if you're targeting a 750 kind of a number, the D-Day matters a lot. You have to make sure that you deliver on that particular day and you do the best on that particular day. So we'll talk about that part as well. So I hope all of you are excited and you're with me to kind of move forward. But just to ask you a quick question, guys, just before I get started with with the first point, what is that you guys are doing currently to improve your GMAT score? What is that you guys are doing currently? Let me ask this question, and I request all of you, many of you are participating, some of you are passive listeners, but it really helps if you guys engage with me. That actually gives me more pointers to talk about, that helps me address your questions as well, and it makes the session all the more exciting. So please tell me what is that you are doing today, currently, to kind of improve your score. Okay, Ashish is saying, I gave my exam last week. After 3-4 months of prep, only scored 650 despite getting 700 to 710 marks. Not sure how to improve. So Ashish, it's possible that the marks that you have taken, there are 2-3 reasons why scores go down. One is quality of marks. If it was an official mark, also there is a difference between the official marks and the actual GMAT in terms of at least the quant section. Then you could have gotten biased, or let's say seen some of the questions already. So probably schedule a discussion with me, Ashish. I will be able to kind of help you in understanding what could be going wrong with you. Nitesh says, I have appeared for the GMAT last week and scored a 650, did well in quant, but just scored 31 in verbal. So seems like Nitesh and Ashish, you guys have a similar story. Don't worry, Nitesh, I'm going to cover a lot of verbal related things because see, I'm a non-native speaker. In general, I struggle with verbal, and many of the people have been struggling with verbal. So I'm going to talk a lot about verbal. Not that I'm not going to talk about quant, but it's going to be focused on verbal. So we'll talk about it. Okay, so I have some comments from people. Thank you so much for responding. Angelica says, I am reading. Okay, what are you reading, Angelica? Reading articles, I guess. You mean reading articles and novels? Akash Maheshwari says, I took coaching of GMATWhiz. Okay, that's great to know. That's great to know. Steve says, solving a lot of problems. Okay, solving questions. Priyansha says, practicing sentence correction. So practicing questions, similar to what Steve is doing. Practicing more to improve the accuracy is what Ashish says. Arun says going back to basics in topic areas where I'm consistently getting questions wrong. Okay. Rereading entire material from basics is what Uttam is doing. Ashish is also doing mocks. Okay. So if you see, like most of you guys are telling me some common aspects that I'm hearing from all of you, and that's what most people do, is practice questions. Now, this is something which we have been trained to do from childhood. We have heard this proverb, practice makes a man perfect. And in fact, we try to tackle GMAT the exact same way as we tackle every other test, which is by looking at the questions which come on the test and practice more and more of those questions so that we improve our accuracy. Now, is that the right thing to do? It is one of the things that you should be focusing on, but should not be the sole thing or the primary thing that you should focus on. And I'll talk about that. And many people focus on taking mocks and analyzing those. Arushi just mentioned that. Taking mocks, analyzing the mocks, and then revisiting the concept that they're weak at. But what you need to understand is if you're just practicing questions, your score, it is helpful. I'm not saying it's not helpful, but your scores won't improve unless you identify what is the gap in the approach that you're using. And in my experience, trust me, guys, in 90% of the cases that I speak with, 90% of the people that we have worked with, the main problem is the way they are approaching questions. Now, if you continue practicing questions and you don't change your approach, then you're actually just getting better at using the wrong approach. So that will only give you an incremental improvement or almost no improvement. It will just take you to a certain level and you'll see a plateau there. You'll not be able to overcome that score because you're not focusing on improving the problem area, which is your approach itself. So your score will not improve just by practicing. Now I'll build upon this a lot more, but let's first understand how the test functions. Now, why is this critical? Because once you understand how the test functions, you'll be able to understand why just practicing alone is not going to suffice for a test like GMAT. For a test, any other test which is not adaptive in nature or not so adaptive as GMAT is, it can still work, but not for GMAT. Now, to help you understand, I'm going to take up a simple case. First, I'm going to take up a simple case, and then I'm going to take up a complex case and explain you through multiple examples. So when you start the GMAT, everyone, let's take a student's example. So this student gets some medium questions to start with. Just generally what happens on the GMAT. You start with a medium difficulty question. Now, since the test is supposed to be adaptive, if you get this medium question right, what happens is the next question which is served to you is a medium hard question. Now, if you get this medium hard question right, the next question which is served to you is a harder question, slightly more harder question, so you go to the next difficulty level. Now, if you get this question right as well, you stay in the similar range. I'm assuming that there is nothing more than hard which is there. So you're staying in that same hard range, but let's assume that you get this hard question wrong. Now, if you get this hard question wrong, you're brought down back to the medium hard score range, and let's assume that you get this question wrong as well. So in reality, what's happening is you have attempted 5 questions, you have gotten 3 of them correct, 2 of them incorrect. So your accuracy is 60%. And your score right now, if you look at this chart, you will understand that your score is 3 points plus 4 points plus 5 points because you have gotten one medium hard, and one hard question right. So the total score is 12 points on this 5 questions, and the accuracy is 60%. Okay. Now, with this example clear to all of you, let's take another example. Let's take a different student. This guy also starts the medium level, but instead of getting the first question right, he gets the first question wrong. So what happens is the next question which is served to him is an easy medium question. Now, if you get this question wrong as well, the next question which is served to you is an easy question. Let's assume you get this right. So the next question is easy medium. You get this right. The next question is a medium question. And let's assume that you get the last question correct. Now, I want you guys to calculate the accuracy and score of this particular candidate. What do you think is the accuracy? Okay. think about this. 3 out of 5 questions right. Okay, so what do you think is the accuracy and the score of this particular candidate? Now, this example which I'm showing you is a slightly simplistic example. GMAT, this is a simplified example. GMAT does not reveal us or tell us that what is the marks or score that they assign to easy, medium, or hard questions. But definitely harder questions are valued much more than the medium questions, and which are valued much more than the easier questions. And GMAT does not adapt after every question either. It adapts after a block of questions. My understanding is the first block which is given to you is about 3 questions. And I've looked at least 5,000 TSRs in my career. Okay, and so I'm telling you all from experience. So first block is 3 questions. Based on that, the accuracy of that, the difficulty level of the next block is decided. The first block is medium always, and based on the difficulty level of accuracy of that, the next blocks, which is around 3-4 questions again, the difficulty level of that is decided, and it moves on in that fashion. So it's not like question level adaptive, even if they say it, it's like a block level adaptive, and a block is of 3-4 questions. But it's very similar. This is a simplified example. So, okay, I asked a very simple question, but I have seen just 3 responses. Priyasha, Arushi, and Abhinav, all 3 of you are correct. The student has scored 6 points and accuracy is 60%. What I want you guys to understand is both these people have exactly same accuracy numbers. But if you look at the score, one student has scored 12 points versus another student has scored 6 points. That's the difference that we are talking about. Double, like 50% reduction in score, exactly with the same accuracy. Now, this is what can happen on an adaptive test. Now, if you're preparing, and this is what you need to understand, that GMAT is not like other tests. It is a different test. Now, if you're preparing for GMAT in the same fashion as you prepare for the other tests, you're still leaving a chance where you can actually go wrong because you are not taking care of the adaptiveness of the test, which we have to take care of. Now, this was a simplified example, as I said. Let's look at the actual GMAT scorecard. So this is an actual scorecard of one of our students, Shreyash, who scored 42 in the verbal section and 50 in the quant section. He scored a 760 overall, and he's right now studying in Harvard, basically. So in case any one of you wants to check out his interview where we have covered his entire journey, you can do that. I'll share the link in a short while. But this scorecard shows his verbal score. So that was a 42. And it also tells us the number of mistakes that he made in the verbal section. So what this scorecard tells us is that in the first quarter, in the verbal section, he made 1 mistake. In the second quarter, he made 2 mistakes. In the third quarter, he made 1 mistake. And in the last quarter, he made 4 mistakes overall. Okay, this is his exact TSR. He took the test last year, by the way. So all in all, if you look at his number of mistakes was 8. All right. So this was the total number of mistakes made by Shreyash in the entire test. Now try to register this data in your mind. Okay, try to register this data. What I'm doing now is I'm also sharing 2 more ESRs. So I'll take this data on the top, 8 mistakes, 42. I'm going to share 2 more ESRs with you, 2 more snapshots of the ESRs rather, where I'm going to show you the mistake pattern, and I want you guys to guess the verbal score of this particular student, these students basically. So the first ESR, this student also had made 8 mistakes. The only difference being the pattern of the mistakes is slightly different. Instead of making 1, 2, 1, 4. So Shreyash made 1 mistake first quarter, 2 second quarter, 1 in the third, and 4 in the last. So basically 1, 2, 1, 4 was the pattern for Shreyash. This person made 4103 mistakes. So a total of 8 mistakes. I want you to guess the verbal score of this student. What do you think is the could be the verbal score of this student? I want you to guess this. Okay, I'm gonna go on the full screen mode. I'm giving you about 30 seconds to a minute's time to guess this, guys. And see, no, like it doesn't matter even if you get it wrong, but at least take a try, take a shot. What do you think is the verbal score of the student? All right, so I do see some really interesting comments. So Sahiti says 34, Tushar says it should be 38. So both of you think it should be lower than 42. That's good to know. Devabrata says 31, Priyasha 31, Arushi also goes for 31. So there's a high chance that most of you believe it's around 31. Now a lot of you are thinking about 33. Siddhant says, Ashita says 35, Karan says 38, 35, and so on. All right, guys. So I see a lot of responses around 35 also now. Okay, one more snapshot, guys. One more snapshot. 5 mistakes. Okay, now you have 5 mistakes on the screen. What do you think is the verbal score of this second candidate? So Parvinder says 27. We are closing it now. Parvinder, 5 mistakes, and the pattern for this student is 3-1-1. 3 mistakes in the first quarter, 1 and 1 here. 5 mistakes in all. What do you think is the verbal score of the second student? And benchmark this, guys. 8 mistakes, 42. 8 mistakes, 42. 5 mistakes, what do you think is the verbal score? Okay. So Shah says 42. Rajat says 42. Then I'm getting a lot of 38, 39s. But mostly people are saying 40, 45, 43. A few of you are saying 37, 38 as well. Siddhant 42. So most of you are saying this one should be close to 42, right? Like this one, most of you are saying that should be close to 42. But this one, most of you are saying that should be close to 35, right? And then that's how like we think the test works. Now let me reveal the scores, actual scores to you guys. Okay, let's look at the score of the first candidate, the one which most of you predicted should be around 35. Many of you said 38, some of you said 31 also. The verbal score of this student was a 30. 30. Compare this with this, okay? 30 and 42, exact same number of mistakes. And these are not doctored scorecards. I have the actual scorecards, the full scorecards of these people. These are actual scorecard, actual snapshots from these scorecards, guys. 30 versus the 42 with the exact same number of mistakes. Now, if this was not shocking enough for you, let me reveal the scorecard of the second score of the second student. This person scored a 34 on verbal with 5 mistakes. Okay, try to digest this. 34 in verbal with 5 mistakes and 8 mistakes. The other student has gotten a 42. Imagine that. Most of you are saying that it should be more than 40. It should be more than 40 is what most of you were thinking. Now look at this and try and understand how the test works. Let me summarize this basically. Is accuracy the right metric? That's the question that should go in your mind. 8 mistakes, first candidate scores 96 percentile, which is a verbal 42. 96 percentile verbal 42. The second candidate scores a verbal 30 with the same number of mistakes. And the third candidate scores a mere 34. What do you think is happening here, guys? How many of you are thinking that, okay, you know what, GMAT is really harsh. How can you give 34 to someone who has just made 5 mistakes? 5 mistakes out of like 30 scored questions. Out of 36 questions in verbal, 30 are scored, 6 are experimental. So this is data out of the scored questions only, obviously. Think about that. 5 mistakes, verbal 34, 8 mistakes, verbal 42. So Ashish, you are right in saying that you have to commit as less mistakes as possible in the first quarter at first 10 questions, but doesn't mean that that's the only thing which matters. There is a lot more to that as well. Does it imply that the first question block is most important? Is important to move to hard questions? Definitely yes. So that's the main thing. In GMAT, if you look at the, let's understand this, what is really happening. This is not like absurd or random data points, guys. This is a test which is tuned in such a way that it gives you the questions that you are capable of answering. That's how GMAT puts it. The GMAT adaptive algorithm will give you the right set of questions which you are capable of getting correct. That's how it is tuned, and it is tuned over a period of like decades. So if you look at the verbal performance of Shreyas, I'm trying to break it down for you guys. Okay, trying to break it down for you guys. Try to see what has happened with them. He also started the test with a medium difficulty question. Like everyone else, GMAT does not differentiate in the beginning. Every one of you will get the fair chance of starting with a medium difficulty level question. Now, what Shreyas did was, he just made one mistake in quarter one at the medium level. He did not make more than one mistake. He just made one mistake in the entire test, in the first quarter. Now, since he just made one mistake, what happened is that the test started now giving him medium hard questions in Q2. Let's see that happening. So the difficulty level in Q2, if you see, the green dot is the average difficulty. So his difficulty level in Q2 beginning went to medium hard, which is basically in other terms 700 level questions. He started getting 700 level questions from quarter 2 onwards. He got 5 of the 700 level questions correct in Q2, and that's when the difficulty level in Q2 itself increased to 750 level. So if you see this new square on your screen, this is what the 750 level is indicated on the screen. Basically, this is 750 level as per GMAT. Now he made 2 mistakes at the 750 level, and he also made one more mistake in the 750 level question in Q3. So he also was not able to get the 750 level question right. Now you might be thinking, okay, what if he could have gotten it right? If he would have gotten 750 level questions correct, he might have scored a quant 46, 47, who knows, verbal 46, 47 or verbal 50 also. But he was not able to get those right. Let's be practical over here. He's a non-native speaker. Verbal was not his strength. He was not able to get those questions right. But the one thing which is important is that he made no mistakes in even Q through at the 700 level. So in the 700 level, which is this level overall, like the medium hard level, he did not make any mistakes at all. All the correct questions that you see are very, very close to this level, very, very close to this level, basically. And in the quant quarter 4, basically, he made 4 mistakes, but that did not play a significant role. It's okay to make mistakes on the 750 level questions, yes, but not okay to make mistakes in the 700 level questions. Not many mistakes you can make. I'll generalize this also. I'll summarize this also in the end. Don't worry about that. Okay. But isn't that if you give more attention to a specific block, you're bound to lose time on the others? So Ashish, that's the wrong inference you are drawing here. I'm not saying that by giving more time, you will get more questions right. Did I say that in the entire session? I did not, right? So don't assume that by giving more time or giving more attention, you will get the questions correct. You have to build the right skills to get the questions correct. Then only you will get it correct. Okay? By giving more time, obviously, if you give more time in the beginning and you save time, and I've seen people doing that. I did not have this, I have not kept those ESRs in this session because this is not a GMAT algorithm session. I do that in a GMAT algorithm session, where I've shown people that sometimes what people do is they will just focus on the first quarter, get 100% accuracy in the first quarter by overspending time. And that's when they don't have any time left for the second and the third quarter, and the score dips. What you need to focus on is that Shreyas did not just do well in the first quarter, he did well in the second and the third quarter also. He got the 700 level questions right. If you guys want to check out the GMAT algorithm session, where I talk about the test taking strategy in depth, you guys can check out this session. You can bookmark this, and there are more sessions that we conduct on our YouTube channel. You can check them out as well. All right. But this is the idea that you need to understand. Now, if I compare the verbal 30 and the verbal 42 ESR side by side, what you will see closely is that the first student in the second quarter, the questions that he was getting right were easy medium questions. Easy medium basically means these are like 600 level questions, 600 to 650 at best, in that range. Okay. On the other hand, Shreyas was getting 700 level questions right. And try to see the difference in the skill level. It's side by side. So you're looking at just accuracy, but you need to look at the difference in the skill level as well. That's very, very important, guys. That's very, very important. Okay. So what does GMAT really test you on? Is GMAT a test of accuracy? Definitely no. GMAT in reality is a test of skill. It is about which questions do you get right. It is about making sure that you don't just have the capability of getting questions correct. It should be about the capability of getting questions of any difficulty level correct, any particular difficulty level correct. That's what the GMAT really, really tests you on. All right. Now, to just summarize this further, if you are right now in the score range of 550 to 650, what does this signify? This simply signifies that right now, when it comes to easy questions, you have a very good hold over them, as in you're almost getting all those easy questions right. But the moment the difficulty level moves to medium questions, you become inconsistent. Your accuracy is about 60 to 70%. And the accuracy, more than the accuracy, the problem is that inconsistency. What you need to understand is, unless you're very consistent, if you recall Shreyas's example, he was very consistent in the first quarter. He got almost everything correct. And that's when he moved to the hard level in the second quarter itself. If you're not that consistent, what will happen is, like the other two students, you would either you will reach the hard questions only in the quarter 3. Then obviously you're not getting exposed to that many hard questions. So you are getting to the hard questions, but you're not getting to the hard questions at the right time. So you're not getting exposed to too many hard questions, and your score won't be as high. So 60 to 70% accuracy in medium questions is not going to work out. And 60 to 70% is the case for people who are around 650. People who are around 550, their accuracy in medium questions would be about 40-50% only. On the other hand, in the hard questions, you generally don't get a lot of hard questions served. And even if you get them served, their accuracy is less than 40%. That's what this score range signifies. Now, this is the data that you guys see. But what is the core problem? If you are right now in this score range, that means your conceptual knowledge is fine, but your approach of solving questions is not fine. Because see, what is the difference between an easy, medium, and a hard question? In an easy question, it's a straightforward application of concepts or rules. You just know the rules, you apply them, you get the answer. In medium questions, it's a slightly twisted, just slightly twisted thing. So if you are good at inference, you can do some basic inferences, you will still be able to get the medium questions right. Now, if you are weak in some areas, then obviously you will struggle in those medium questions. So that's why you see the inconsistency. But in the hard questions, unless you use the right approach to solve them, no shortcuts are going to work on hard questions. Shortcuts can only work on easy and medium questions. They won't work on hard questions. So unless you know the right approach, you will not get the hard questions right in any case. So what does 700 score really mean? If you want to score 700 plus or get closer to even 750, you don't have a lot of scope of errors in easy and medium questions. Like easy questions, you should get 100% accuracy. Medium, 90 to 100% will work. One mistake is what you can manage in, one or two, maximum two, but that too should not be in the very first 3-4 questions also. So one or two mistakes in the first quarter can still work. But in the hard questions, you would need about that 60 to 70% mark accuracy just to get a 720 kind of a number. If you want a 750, this number has to be around 80%. In the very hard questions, 750 level questions, I'm not considering them because like very hard, you need to get correct consistently only if you're looking at 770s and the likes of those, basically. So if you want to check out the interview of one of our students who scored a 770 on the GMAT, I'll ask my team to share the link shortly with you. But generally, for people who are looking at 750 around that, till hard questions, if you get them right, you're good enough. You don't have to worry a lot about the 750 level questions. So in simple terms, guys, what do you think your approach should be to score 700 plus? I'm going to summarize that for you guys, but let me hear it from you first. What do you think? You have heard me for almost half an hour now. What is that you have understood till now? That what should be your approach to get the 700 plus? Let's see some thoughts from you. Let's hear some thoughts from you in the meantime. So I'm giving you 30-40 seconds to kind of share your thoughts with me in the chat. I want to make sure that all of us are on the same page. You guys are our frequency is matching. You're understanding exactly everything that I'm covering here. That's very important. Master verbal section, okay, Vasudev. So that's I think one section which you are struggling with. So good point. Agree. Getting the approach and strategy correct. Good. Get ready. Really good at the approach and application to any questions. Consistency and smart application. Very valid point, Achal. Thank you so much. Consistency, very good. So consistency is the key, guys. Is the key actually on GMAT. So you have to actually do two things in order to get to a 700 plus score. First, you have to make the algorithm serve you hard questions. That's very, very critical. More critical than anything else, because if you don't get hard questions at all, you will not get to see that 700 for sure. So how do you get the hard questions? You get the hard questions by having a high accuracy on easy and medium questions. So you need to have a high accuracy over there. That will get the first, get you through the first step. So this is step one. Okay, this is gonna be the first step. The second step is much more important. Like obviously after the first step, but it's definitely important. What is that? When it gives you the hard questions, you need to make sure that you get these hard questions correct. How do you do that? For those who are getting the hard questions right, you need to learn the right skills and you need to learn how to apply them. Okay, yes, Raj is a question. I have scored a 710. Congratulations on that. Should I retake? That depends on your profile, on your target schools, yes, Raj. I have even recommended people with a 730 to retake the GMAT, and I've seen them improving their score to 760, 770, and they were rejected by the same B school the last year. With a better score, they were accepted. So it depends on your profile and the schools that you're applying to, definitely. So the idea is solving questions is not sufficient only if you're practicing questions and doing mocks, because that's something which will lead you to repeating the same mistakes if you're not changing your methods. But if you learn the right skills, how to solve questions, and then you practice questions, then it will actually lead you to the success that you require. Now, what is the core problem? Why is that people still don't succeed? I take this session so many times. Now, what you might have understood by now is that getting the hard questions correct is very, very critical. Getting the hard questions correct is very, very critical. Now, the question then comes is, how do we get the hard questions right? Now, in order to get the hard questions right, we need to understand why do we get the hard questions wrong? Now, I come across this data a lot. I hear this a lot from a lot of students, and I want you guys to tell me a quick yes no, basically a quick yes no in the poll here. How many of you think that if you have sufficient time, let's say 3 to 4 minutes for solving hard questions, you can get the hard questions correct? How many of you think that if you have sufficient time, I can, just line that you see on your screen, I can solve the hard questions if I have enough time to solve it? Just a quick yes no guys will do, and I want maximum votes on this. I want to see maximum yeses or nos on this. Whatever you think is right. Arushi says yes, Sujit says no, so I have a 1-1 split right now. So Shah says yes, Aman, Okolis, I have a 5-1, 4-1 split. Yes, no, maybe is in between somewhere. So I have a 6-2 split. Then I have 8-3. The count is 8-3 now. Okay, I have more people joining in the polling. 9-3, I guess. I know this is a very raw way of catching your numbers, but I'm just trying to see. So it's 9-4 approximately right now. So approximately about 70% of you think the same way, right? 70% of you think the same way. When I take sessions, and I use polls in the GMAT sessions that we conduct. In those polls, the answer to this question is close to 100%, 90 to 100%. And I see more people saying yes as I see more and more votes coming in. So a lot of times people think this, and this is a common thought. This is a common thought to have. Every student thinks in the same fashion. Now, when you think that, okay, if I have enough time, if I had enough time to solve questions and get the hard questions right, what is the next thought that comes to your mind? What is the next thought that comes to your mind? Again, guys, I'm just trying to make this interactive. Tell me what is the next thought that comes to your mind. The moment when you think this, that okay, if I had enough time, I could get the hard questions right. What is the next thing that comes to your mind? What is the next step that comes to your mind? Yes, Raj, since your question is more related to the profile and other things, I'll not take this up because the session is not about that. So I don't want to deviate from the agenda of the session, even though I can answer it right now, but I don't want to get into that. Otherwise, we'll deviate from the agenda. Please schedule a call with me. I'll share the link with you again. So you can schedule a call with me. I can take up your question in that call. Okay, so don't worry about that. I've given the link in the chat. You can actually use this link to schedule a call. Yes, Raj. Okay. Save time in easy and medium questions. Siddhant says need to improve timing. Abhinav says, so Abhinav, you're saying need to improve timing, but how? Okay, what about others? I just see two responses. I'm assuming that you guys are not sure what do you do. I try to solve the hard questions. Okay, just doing more hard questions. That's good. Need to improve my skills to perform better. Okay. Okay. So some of you are thinking in the right direction. But let me tell you what most people think. How do you solve quickly? That's what most people think. How to save time? Like how do I keep a time limit and how to save time? Now the first thing that comes to people's mind, that the most common thing, and this is all from my experience that I see people doing every single day, you start cutting corners while you read the question. Because most people think the answer is in choices. Again, I'm a little biased towards verbal in this case by when I'm saying that the answer is in choices. So let's spend time over there. But even in quant, many people don't spend enough time on reading the question stem that well or analyzing the question stem. They start solving it too fast. In verbal, most people think that the answer is in the choices. So let's spend time over there, and they try to save time in the question stem. In fact, when I ask them that, okay, like so many people come to me and say, okay, Piyush, you know what my CR is very poor. I take about 2.5 minutes on an average to solve a CR question. And I ask them, okay, how much of this 2.5 minutes do you spend on reading the question stem, and how much do you spend when you move to the options? As in, how much time you're spending on reading the question stem before you move to the options, and how much time you're spending on reading the options and rereading the question stem. Obviously, a lot of rereading will be done. And in most cases, I hear people saying that I give about 40 to 50 seconds to this. In many cases, people just say 30 seconds to this. And majority of their time, close to 2 minutes, is what they spend on doing this. That's a very, 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 very common thing which people do. They try to cut corners on reading the question stem just because they think, and this is the root cause, they think that they can get the questions right if they give enough time to solve. Like, if enough time to them, they can get the hard questions right. So the root cause starts here. Let's see how it starts. Let's see how it actually creates a huge, huge problem for you. Now, the moment you read the question stem quickly, what happens is you are able to save some time, but you only get a rough understanding of what's being stated. Now, when you have a rough understanding of what's being stated, you eliminate 2 to 3 choices confidently. Okay. Now, what do you guys do when you get stuck with 2, 3 choices? Obviously, you eliminate 2, 3 choices confidently. That means you are getting stuck with the last 2, 3 choices. So, what do you guys do when you are stuck with the last 2, 3 choices? Let's hear from you. What do you guys do when you get stuck with the last 2, 3 choices? Tushar says, what are some of the tips to solve 700 level hard questions? So, Tushar, there is no tip. The only tip is that you should know the right method. There is no shortcut to getting the 700 level questions right. Uh, People will tell you all sort of things, that there are shortcuts that work on GMAT, doesn't work on hard questions, for sure. Okay. Krat says, Jai Shri Ram. This is Tukka. Try finding splits of errors. Maybe go to the passage of the question, is what Bhavna says. Siddhant says, reading the question stem. Again, reread the passage. Yeah, that's what most people do, right? You reread the question or the choices multiple times. Now, think about it, guys. You save time on reading the question stem quickly. The moment you start reading the question stem again or the choices again, you have lost all the time. In fact, in most cases, as many of you are saying, you mark some answer because time is running out. You make flukes, like tukkas. All that, tukka is a Hindi word, by the way. There's a common general lingo that we follow in India. But yeah, you mark something as the time runs out. So if you look at the entire timing over here, what's happening is you read the question stem quickly by spending 20, 30 seconds on that. You saved some time there. But you were able to only eliminate 2, 3 choices when you did that. You were able to eliminate 2, 3 choices in 20, 30 seconds. So basically, when you have spent about close to a minute, till that time, you are fine. You're actually saving time. But the moment you get stuck in 2, 3 choices, even after spending 20, 30 seconds, you're not able to get this right. You end up rereading the question or the choices multiple times. That ends up consuming 60 to 90 seconds, which is much more than the time saved over here, which is much more than the time saved over here. It nullifies all the effort. In fact, the worst part is you still don't get the question right. So the entire problem, entire question solving takes you 2 to 3.5 minutes to get the answer. And in most cases, you don't even get the answer correctly. So if you see the culprit behind all this, the main root cause of the problems, and I'm talking about people who are stuck in the 600s range. If you're below 600s, then there could be other problems also. But if you're in the 600s range, the major issue with you is you're reading the question stem too quickly, which could be because of wrong approach. Probably you don't even know that you should be reading the question stem properly. You don't even know how to read it properly, where to break things down, which is something which I want to cover as we move forward. Or it could just be because you're worried about timing and you're pushing yourself too hard. Both of these are wrong. You have to stop doing these immediately. Now, let me take an example. Let me take the example of RC. How do you guys solve RC questions today? Now, if I recall my student days, when I was a student, there were few approaches which I heard from many people. The first approach which I heard was, and this is a shortcut based approach, obviously, like it was like you read the first line and the last line of every para. I remember going to that coaching institute. It was one of the best coaching institutes in India, typically, like very famous. The first line you read and the last line you read, the teacher was telling me that read the first and the last line of every para. You will understand what the para is about. Then jump to questions. Then if a question is specific to a particular para, come back and read that para only in that case. Why waste time on reading the para unnecessarily? This was approach one. Didn't stick with me for a long time. I was not able to work with this approach for a long time. So I moved to approach two, which was a very common approach, which I hear people talking about all the time. Read the passage quickly in 2 minutes and take a mental note of what lies where. Try not like just reading first line, last line. Try to skim through the passage as much as possible. Take a mental note of what lies where and refer back to the passage for every question. This was the approach that I stuck with for the longest period of time. There's one more approach which some people advocated, which was to read the questions first, so you know what you're looking for, and then read the passage. At least for the first question, you can do that, and then for the second question onwards, you'll have a better advantage. So many people follow one of these approaches. Like I followed approach two for a long time, but none of these approaches work because they are all shortcut based. They are all based on the fact that RC questions are detail based. But in GMAT, that's not the case. In GMAT, RC questions are inference based. And especially if you're dealing with 700 level RC passages, you will have questions which are not just inference based, their questions are global inference based. Global inference basically means the inference is derived by combining multiple parts of the passage together. It's not a local inference. And if you're not just reading some parts of the passage, you will get stuck with those local inferences. Okay. So the time saving irony, it all depends on the time saving. The time saving irony is even if you read the passage too quickly in first read, you spend 2-3 minutes on doing that, you only get a rough idea of what's mentioned, and then you would need to reread the passage for every choice. And this is very important, guys. Note it down if you want to. If any one of you who is struggling with RC, if any one of you is struggling with RC is spending more than 50 seconds per question, like after reading the passage, if you are taking more than 50 seconds per question on an average, the way you are reading the passage itself is wrong. You're not understanding the passage well. If that is incorrect, no matter how many passages you solve, no matter how many questions you solve, your score in RC is not going to go up beyond the 70 percentile for sure. That's the benchmark. So for most people who do not understand the passage right, even if you're spending more time on this part, doesn't matter. If you're not understanding the passage right, you will end up spending more than 1 minute per question. That means you are rechecking the answer for every single question, which is wrong. So your time taken is almost going to be very, very high if you follow this strategy. However, people who do well on GMAT, they read the passage properly first time. And I'm talking about medium and hard questions, medium and hard passages, basically medium to hard passages. They spend about 4 to 5 good minutes in just reading the passage for the first time, and they have a crystal clear understanding of what's being stated. And because of this, they're able to eliminate choices very, very confidently. The more important word is not eliminate choices. The more important word is the confident part of it. So 40 seconds is what they take per question. If you're taking this much time per question and getting the questions right, then your approach is RC is perfect. You don't need to worry about that. So the idea is, if you want to master RC, you have to think like the author, especially the GMAT RC. You have to understand the author's point of view, because 85% of the GMAT questions, this is based on the research that we have done, are actually going to be inference based. You have to understand and think like the author. In order to do that, you have to break down a sentence into small chunks. You have to understand the meaning of each sentence. And as you move forward, for every subsequent sentence that comes, you need to keep relating back to the previous sentences. You need to check what is the author doing. You need to connect that information. You have to preempt also in a way that what is going to come next. So try and ensure that you are connecting subsequent sentences and understanding the story that the author is trying to tell through the passage. Okay, it's very, very critical. And in order to do this, transition words and conjunctions are going to be very, very helpful to relate back the meaning. And then summarize each para for over there. Okay, so this is something which is very, very important. Now, what is the solution then? So you have to, by now you would have understood that you have to learn the right method. Now, what are the right methods? The right methods are meaning-based approach in SC. And at GMATWhiz, we advocate these approaches very strongly. Very strongly, we recommend this. In fact, our entire coursework is built around this. And students have gotten 90 plus points average score improvement using our course, about 99 points for international students, just because of these methods that we teach them. Pre-thinking is what works for CR. Involved and evolved reading is what works for RC. For data sufficiency, drawing inferences from the question stem is going to be the most important method that you need to follow. And in problem solving, there's a 3-step process that we teach. Okay. Now, how many of you are aware of this methods? Quick yes, no in this poll, guys. How many of you are aware of this method, or how many of you are following these methods? Because see, when I talk about these methods, many times people come and tell me, Piyush, you know what? I'm actually following all these methods, but I'm still struggling. I'm still not close to my target score. So what are you trying to tell me? I'm using the meaning-based approach. I'm using pre-thinking. But trust me, guys, in 90% cases, when people tell me this and I ask them to solve a question right in front of me, and I ask them to solve the question out loud, they're either not using the approach at all, like more than 50% of them are not even using the approach at all. The rest 50%, half of them are using the approach to just a decent level. I would say 40-50% of what they should be doing. And very rarely I come across someone who is using the approach in the perfect way. Now, you might think I'm making an exaggeration over here, but there's no exaggeration here. Because if you use the approach in the right way, you will not be struggling at all. So what is important? Again, I'm not questioning that you are not trying to follow the approaches. Probably you are doing your best to do that because obviously you are a student. You have invested so much time and energy on GMAT. You know that GMAT is a road, like it's a roadblock between you and your target school. So obviously you're putting 100%, but probably you're not aware what the approach is. Now, just to help you understand whether you are truly using the approach or not, we are gonna solve a GMAT question. Okay, we are going to solve a GMAT question where what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you to solve this question. I'm going to give you 2 minutes to solve this question. And then I'm going to solve this question using the meaning-based approach myself. And I want you guys to compare your method with my method there. Okay, so I'm going to stop my audio for a minute so that you can concentrate on this. And please don't post your answers in the chat directly. Okay, I want you to hold on to your answers. And when I ask you, only then post your answers so that others are not biased by your answers. All right. So you have 2 minutes to solve this question. I'm going to go on mute. Your 2 minutes start now. All right, guys, 2 minutes are over. So those of you who have solved it, you can post your answers in the chat now. Okay, so I do see a lot of comments. Okay, so I see Akash says it's C, Pavinder says it's E, A, C, C, A, C, A, C. Okay, so mostly it's between A and C. C seems to be the most popular choice, A the second most popular one, and a couple of you, I guess, Pavinder and Andre have mentioned C. Piyush has gone with B. So there is one choice, one person who has gone with B. So no takers for D till now. C seems to be the most popular choice as well. And that's as per data also. Like as per GMAT Club data, if you see this question, this is an official question. The data is available on GMAT Club. Most people, about 36% of them, think C is the correct answer. That's the most common answer that people pick. But again, guys, just to set the narrative correctly, my objective of getting you this question is not to get this teach you how to solve this particular question. My objective of getting this question here is to help you understand how to improve your score to a 750. So try to focus more on the broader aspect, the approach angle. So what I'm doing now is I'm going to solve this question as I would have solved it myself the very first time I would have done it using the meaning based approach. And I want you to closely notice the meaning based approach that I follow and the meaning based approach that you follow if you think you're following the meaning based approach. And tell me later on what is the difference that you see between your understanding of the meaning based approach and my understanding. Because some of our competitors in the market teach the meaning based approach, but they just say use the meaning based approach, but in reality, they teach the grammatical aspect, focus on splits and all those things, which is not the true meaning based approach, that is. So I'm going to show you my approach and I want you to compare that. Okay. So let's get started. So let's read the sentence. A substance. Okay. So when I'm solving this question and I'm reading it out loud, this is how I'm thinking internally. So this sentence is talking about a substance. So probably I don't know what substance is this. These are the questions that I'm asking. Probably it will tell me what substance it is, what does it do. Let's read further. Derived from the Madagascar periwinkle. Now at GMATWhiz, we have this thought process that whenever you see a verb-like word, for example, in this case, derived is a verb-like word, we will ask ourselves whether it is a verb or a modifier. What is that it is doing? And there are two tests that we teach, which is also available in our free trial. These two tests to understand whether it is a verb or a modifier. If you guys want, you can check out the free trial also to kind of learn these two tests, because right now I don't have the time to cover this up. So you can use this link in the chat to kind of check out the free trial. There is a file called identifying subjects and verbs in that, like in identifying verbs basically, where you can actually understand how to differentiate between a verb and a verbal or a modifier. So if I use those two tests, what I can understand from this is that derived is an action which is not done by the substance. It is not done by the subject. It's not a doer of the action. So derived is a modifier. So I don't have a verb for the substance. What I know is that a substance is derived from a Madagascar periwinkle. So this is what this substance is derived from the Madagascar periwinkle. But what does the substance do? I don't know that yet. Probably the verb for it is going to come next. Okay. Now, what is Madagascar periwinkle? I don't know what Madagascar periwinkle is. I don't have any idea about that. So let's call it as MP. Let's read further. Okay, which has proved useful in decreasing mortality among young leukemia patients. We also teach in our course that you have to stop on relative pronouns, basically. That way it helps you to contextualize the sentence better. So which has proved useful in decreasing mortality? Now I'll ask myself this question: what has proved useful in decreasing mortality among patients? What has proved useful? Now, if I see the sentence, the way it is structured, it seems like Madagascar periwinkle has proved useful, because it's coming very close to which generally refers to nouns. This is very close to it. So if I ask myself, does Madagascar periwinkle make sense with it being proving useful to decrease mortality? It does make sense. But then what is the substance doing? It's likely that the author is talking about the substance basically being useful in decreasing mortality. So if I ask myself this question, what is this referring to? I get two answers. It could be the substance, it could be MP. MP because it's coming close to which and it is making sense with which. But if I look at the context of the sentence, it seems like the substance should be basically proving useful in decreasing mortality. So I have that scope of ambiguity which is there. That ambiguity is there with respect to the uses of the pronoun. In the correct sentence, the author should have clarified this part. The sentence should clarify this, what has proved useful in decreasing mortality. But let's read further. In my mind, I'll keep it the intended meaning as a substance has proved useful. So till now, I know the substance is derived from Madagascar periwinkle. I know that the substance has proved useful in decreasing mortality. Let's read further. Is cultivated in China. Now, what is cultivated in China? If I look at it structurally, before this part, don't have a verb for a substance, but this is the verb for the substance. The sentence tells me that a substance is cultivated in China as part of a program. So this is cultivated as part of a program. Which program? The program that is to integrate traditional herbal medicine into contemporary style of healthcare. So they're integrating some herbal medicine into contemporary style of healthcare. Now, if I ask myself, okay, traditional herbal medicine, that means a medicine that is derived from a herb. Okay, herb. If I look at the sentence, what is derived? Substance is derived. It is derived from what? Madagascar periwinkle. So this is most likely the herb that we are talking about. And this is a herbal medicine. So this is a medicine. That means the substance should be the one which has proved useful. Logically, that's what the sentence is trying to communicate. So what is the sentence trying to tell me? The sentence is trying to tell me that a substance is derived from Madagascar periwinkle, which is a herb. The substance proves useful in decreasing mortality. And what is cultivated is still a question. What is cultivated? Can I say a substance is cultivated? This sentence is telling me that the substance is cultivated. Parvinder has the right point. Parvinder says problem with C, derivative is cultivated is wrong. Okay, that's the same problem with choice A. Exactly, Parvinder. So substance cannot be cultivated. We can cultivate a plant, not a substance. Okay, it's very, very logical. In fact, if the substance is derived from something, why will you cultivate that thing? Well, will you cultivate the substance? You will cultivate the thing which is derived from, right? That's the entire objective. So if you understand it clearly, you will understand that it should be Madagascar periwinkle that is cultivated. The substance cannot be cultivated. Okay. Now let me ask you guys, how many of you, and just quick yes no will do on this question. How many of you identified this error? Identified this error that a substance cannot be cultivated. It should be the Madagascar periwinkle that is cultivated. How many of you identified this error when you were solving the question yourself? Before I started analyzing this, when you were solving the question yourself, how many of you identified this error yourself? Quick yes no guys in the chat. Quick yes no on this. Let me see some responses. I'm giving you 30 seconds guys for this. How many of you identified that the substance is not cultivated, it is the Madagascar periwinkle that is cultivated? And I want all of you who have answered this question, yes as well as no. I know most of you will go ahead and say yes because you have done it, so you would want to talk about it. But even if you are not able to identify, there is no harm in saying a no. At least you'll get a fair picture. Aman, Andre, Pavinder, Nitesh say yes. Sunday, Kenneth, Arun, Siddhant say no. So I have a 4-3 vote till now. Like almost a 50-50, right? Many of you were not able to identify it. Now, if you would have focused on the meaning-based approach, and I'm seeing more no's now as I ask people to kind of reply as no as well. So see, this is one common issue. And trust me, guys, you cannot identify this error unless you focus on the meaning aspect. There's no way you can identify this. I give this question when we recruit teachers at GMATWhiz. I have made a lot of teachers solve this question. In fact, I have made a 15-year-old teacher of one of the most famous GMAT coaching of India solve this question, and she was not able to get this question right. And even after pointing out that this is the error, she was not able to identify why this is the error, that why is cultivated wrong in this sentence. Because again, I'm not questioning the competence of that teacher at all. But the point is, they're so engrossed in teaching grammar that their focus shifts away from the meaning. And you have to understand the meaning. This is a 700 level question, guys. If you look at the meaning of the sentence, the meaning is simple. But if you don't get the meaning right, you will see the accuracy of this question is very, very low. Most people end up marking A, B, C. And you can see on your screen about more than 50% people get this question wrong. This is data from GMAT Club. You can get this data yourself. You can't get the 700 level question right unless you focus on the meaning-based approach. Now, let me ask you another question, guys. This is going to be a subjective question. You guys have to write just yes, no, won't work. What is the difference that you see in your approach that you use to solve SC questions versus my approach that I use to solve this particular question? Because guys, the idea is not to get this question right. As I told you earlier, the idea is to understand where you're going wrong with respect to the method that you're following. Because I'm 100% sure that many of you think that you're using the meaning-based approach. And I want you to tell me, because otherwise this exercise is complete waste of time. I shared my thought process just to help you understand where the difference lies in the right meaning-based approach versus the wrong meaning-based approach. So what do you see is the difference in your thought versus my thought process? I want you to write that in the chat here. Okay, now just to clarify what is the correct answer, I'm going to go through this. So we have already identified two errors with A, which is ambiguous and is cultivated should refer to Madagascar periwinkle. B has the same issue. It says a derivative which has proved useful. So it clarifies the error related to the pronoun, but it still says a derivative is cultivated in China. C has the same issue as B. It says derivative which has proved useful, but it still says derivative is cultivated in China, which is incorrect. None of you went ahead with D. D is also incorrect. It's the easiest one to ignore. E is the correct answer because it says the Madagascar periwinkle is cultivated in China, and it says a derivative of which. So a derivative of the Madagascar periwinkle has proved useful. So it clearly says the derivative has proved useful, and this is the correct answer. Okay. So I have just two responses till now on the meaning-based approach difference that I asked. Okay, Bhavna says you are inferring the sentence in an elaborate fashion. Overlook the non-underlined portion is what Arun says. Yeah, that's a very, very common mistake. And thank you, Arun, for pointing that out. Many people don't consider the information in the non-underlined portion. And if you don't do that, you will not get this question right by any chance. Focused on the meaning more, Priyasha says, was looking for grammatical or English mistakes. So Siddhant, stop doing that. Trust me, GMAT verbal is as logical as GMAT quant is. If you are not using the logical skills here, you are focusing on the language and the grammar, you are limiting your potential. You are limiting your potential yourself. So if you unleash the potential by focusing on meaning, trust me, everything will be easy. Now, why have I picked up SC? Now, many of you might think of, okay, Piyush, you're just talking about SC. Why SC? Let me tell you why. The same approach that I showed you in sentence correction that I use the same style of reading for CR and RC also. I break down. None of you told me, by the way, that Piyush, you broke down the sentences much more. You also preempted what comes next. And I want you guys to understand these aspects. That it is not just about thinking about the meaning. It's about looking at the entire sentence. It's about breaking it down. It's about understanding each part, understanding what it connects with. And even try to preempt. Now, preempting is a skill which will come later, a little later. Right now, you will not be able to come to that skill level, but it will come eventually if you start doing this. So all of this I do in every area, whether it is SC, CR, or RC. All three areas I do. I even read quant question in a similar way. The only difference between a SC and CR or RC question will be that in a SC question, I will even question whether the meaning that I'm deriving is logical or not. Because I can't assume the meaning is logical. It's possible that the meaning is illogical. For example, a substance is cultivated might sound grammatically correct to anyone because a substance is there, is cultivated is there. Most of the grammar rules are fine. But unless you question the logic, you will not understand that there is something wrong with it. So in SC, I have to question the logic also. But in CR and RC, I don't question the logic. I expect the logic to be correct. But what I definitely still do in SC and RC is I do context building. I contextualize the information in the same way. I preempt, I connect pieces together. One sentence to the next, what is the connection that is there? Is there a gap in the connection? What is the author trying to do? That's what you need to do. And that's what we believe helps people improve. That's what helped me improve my score from a verbal 13 to a verbal 41. And it helps our students improve, and that's what we advocate at GMATWhiz strongly. Our entire coursework is created in the application-based format, and I want you guys to focus on the same thought process of that I'm teaching in sentence correction over here, that I taught here. So when you're learning each and every topic, whenever you go to a topic, what do I mean by a topic? A topic could be modifiers, a topic could be assumptions, it could be prime numbers also in quant. What is very important is that you first learn the concept, which is I'm pretty sure that every one of you does. Almost 100% of people do this. But the stage 2 is the most critical one. You should also learn a methodical approach or a proper method to solve questions in a systematic fashion. And then only you should move to stage 3, which is to practice questions on that topic. Now, people who do all these 3 stages in this order get to 700 plus comfortably. But people who skip the second stage, who don't learn a methodical approach and directly jump to solving questions, which is what many people do, trust me, they will individually get the questions correct because they have just learned a concept and they are aware that these questions are going to ask or test them on these concepts. So they are very conscious about applying those concepts. You might still get a good score when you're doing questions on that topic. But right when you move to the more advanced questions or the general questions where you don't know which topic is being tested, you will actually end up repeating same mistakes because you're not aware of a particular method and your score will get stuck. Okay, so how do you master the method? How do you learn the method? For that, it is very important that you refer to solutions. And this is critical, guys. Most of your learning, when people come to me and ask me that, Piyush, you know what, I want to improve my score. And in fact, I have conducted many success stories where there were people who are attending one of my webinars, just like you guys are doing, Bhavna, Siddhant, Andre, Arun, you guys are doing just like this. People were attending one of my webinars. They were in the same boat. They were struggling with their prep. And I have interviewed them as well on the GMAT Club channel later on when they were able to achieve the success. And in their discussions with them, when I tell them how to change your approach, change your score, the main thing that I focus on is solution analysis. It's not about doing a certain course. It's not about just doing GMATWhiz course blindly. I won't say that everyone who does the GMATWhiz course blindly improves. It's about making sure that you go through the solutions line by line and tally your line of reasoning with the solution. And I'll show you an example of that as well. So it's important that you refer to solutions, but these solutions should be consistent, as in they should be using the same method, and they should be logical solutions. They should not be shortcut based solutions. They should not be trick based solutions, because if it is trick based solutions, then you're relying more on memory than logic. And GMAT is a test of logic, not memory. So very important part. Then for every question, you should, irrespective of whether you get it right or not, you should verify the solution and spend 80% of the time on reviewing the sentence analysis and note down the variation between your approach and the right approach. Now, some of you might think, okay, Piyush, this is what we do. But let me show you how people review solutions. And this is one of the biggest mistakes that people do. What they do is, let's say you are doing a sentence correction question, just like the question that we solved, okay? So many people, what they think is that this time I was not, I did not focus enough on the subject verb logical agreement. Next time around when I solve a question, I will focus more on the subject verb logical agreement. Some people might have taken a learning that, okay, which may refer to an entity which is placed away from which. So I have to think about that. In some other question, you might take a learning that, okay, when it comes to simple past tense and past perfect tense, I have to focus on these two things. So what I'm trying to say is that in solution analysis, many times people only review option choices directly. They just go to the options directly. Option A, B, C, D, they review the option analysis. And they try to memorize those mistakes. They make an error log. In that error log, they will focus on that error, write down this error, and they try to not make that error for the next 2-3 weeks. They will remember that. And I want you guys to tell me, and I want all of you to tell me, like, am I able to connect with you here? Are you guys, do you guys do the same thing which I'm telling here or not? Please say a yes, no in the chat, and I want at least 20 responses on this, just to make sure that I'm able to connect with you. Okay, so people note down those errors that they are making. They try not to repeat those errors for the next 2 weeks, but after 2-3 weeks, the same errors start occurring again. Is this something that happens with you? And I want at least 20 plus responses. I have 60 plus people watching this. I'm just expecting 1/3 of you to at least say yes or no, whatever. Arun, Tushar, Bhavna, Arushi, Tanisha, Devvrat. It's either a yes or a mostly kind of that. So I have about 8 responses with me. All yeses still now. I still have 12 more to go. Okay, Umesh says no, so I have 9. It's 8 versus 1. Okay, 3 more yeses, 11 versus 1. Ritesh is the last person to vote till now. I need at least 8 more responses. And this is an important question, guys. Why is this important? Because this is one of the biggest mistakes that people make. One of the biggest mistake. Okay, so I see the number has been stuck at 12 out of 66, just 20% responses. Guys, don't worry. There's no harm in saying a no, no harm in saying a yes. Whatever you think is right, whatever you think you do, but keep this session interactive. The more interactive it is, the more benefit all of us derive from it. So I have the 13th vote now. 12 versus 1 in favor of yes. So that's a common thing. Now, what is the issue with this thought process? Let me tell you what is the issue with this thought process. And I'm summarizing it in one line. This is one quote which I have created. I wanted to keep it under double quotes also. But overall, this is what I would summarize it as. On GMAT, you can't focus on 200 things you should not do. So think of it this way, that we are clogging our brain with multiple things that we should not be doing, right? If you're doing this, you're trying not to make many errors. So when you're solving a question, you can't focus your energy on 200 things you should not do. You can only focus your energy on the one thing that you should do. And this is a deep thought. But if you connect with this thought, you will definitely see the score improvement happening. You will definitely see the score improvement happening. So try to focus that one thing, because I've been there myself. I've struggled myself. I've tried to do the first thing, which is not to do 200 things that I should not do, the errors that I've made in the past, and try not to make those errors. Try to understand why are you making those errors, not what are the errors that you're making. If you focus on why are you making the errors, everything else will fall into place. So how do you analyze the solutions? So this is an example of the solution for this particular question in a similar fashion that we will provide in GMATWhiz. This is the way we provide solution to every SC question in our coursework. So what you should be doing is, when you refer to the solution, what you should ask yourself is that, okay, when I read this part till the Madagascar periwinkle, what is the understanding that I generated? And please mind my words very carefully. Focus on my words. I'm saying when you read till just this part, what is the meaning that you understood? Is that meaning understanding matching with the understanding over here? Did you think that we are talking about a substance? Did you think in this fashion or not? If you did not think in this fashion, you have made a mistake. Ask yourself, why did I not think in the same fashion? Is it because I did not pause? Is it because I paused but I did not analyze? Or is it because I came across a different structure than what I'm used to seeing? When you ask these questions, you identify the root cause of the problem. Are you guys able to relate to me? Say a quick yes, no if you're able to relate to me. Then you move to the next part. You ask yourself, okay, when I read till this portion, not the end of the sentence, when I read just till that portion, did I connect this piece of information with this piece of information? And I asked myself that which is placed next to MP, but it could be referring to the substance or to MP. Did I think of this in this fashion? Did I think of the meaning in this fashion, that it is most likely the substance that is proved useful? Did I think of it in the same fashion or not? And then you move to the next part and you keep doing the same thing. Ask yourself, is my understanding of meaning evolving? If it is evolving, you're going in the right direction. Okay, Umesh, if the resolution is not good, try to change the resolution, because sometimes when your settings on YouTube, it's set on auto mode. So try to change it to 720p or full HD mode to kind of get better resolution. But I think from my side, it should be fine. So this is how you do the solution analysis. This is very important. And if you do this, what is that you can get? Let's take an example. Akshat. This guy had an amazing improvement of 650 to a 730 in just a span of 24 days. Exactly the kind of improvement that you guys are looking for. And what is that we recommended him? When he came to us, we looked at his in our scorecard, we looked at his entire data. And what we identified was that he was struggling with CR and RC. And his approach, he was getting the hard questions wrong there. So his approach was something which was not that perfect. So he asked you to focus on the method part of it. So what he did was he improved his understanding of the methodologies. Let's take an example. We asked him to start with CR. We asked him to focus on the framework-driven methodology for pre-thinking in CR. And he focused on doing that first. If you want to review his video firsthand, you can watch this video. I've conducted his interview in depth. You can learn a lot from his video. The link is there in the chat. But I'm just summarizing what we discussed with him. So he focused on the pre-thinking in CR, and he reviewed the solutions in depth for all the questions, even the correct ones that he was solving. Even the correct ones. That's very important for you guys to notice. And when he was answering the question, basically, he used to mention in his notebook, why would he eliminate a certain choice? Is it distorted? Is it out of scope? Is it irrelevant? Is it opposite? This is a terminology that we teach at GMATWhiz. So what he was doing was, he was first analyzing the CR sentence arguments, the meaning that he generated, the context that he understood, in the same way as I showed you for the previous sentence. Line by line, he was matching it. And then he was also matching why he eliminated each choice. Is that reason matching with GMATWhiz solution or not? And this is something which helped him improve his approach. He also worked on some weak areas there where he was scoring poorly on the medium questions as well. And he also worked on reducing his anxiety and believing in himself during the test. All of this was helpful in him getting to a 730 from a 650 in 24 days. And he's not just one such guy who has done this. Mandar, last year he came to us very close to round 2, very, very close to round 2 around the similar time. And by this time, Mandar, by the way, had used another course, EGMAT, and he was stuck at a 670. And he improved to a 750 in just 30 days. And he will also tell you the same thing in his interview, exactly the same thing. I can show you like hundreds of such cases where people have improved because of this. So the main goal that you need to keep in mind is basically to master the approach. So let's talk about the next step then. How to create a study plan. How to create a study plan where you can master the approach and actually reach that score. Okay. Now, obviously, the most important thing, just to recall all the learnings that we had till now, is to get the hard questions right. Because if you don't get that hard questions right, you'll not be able to get the scores. Do we have the ESRs of all these guys? Parvinder, Akshat, we do have it. Mandar, I don't think we have the ESR, but yeah, you can check out his interview. So some people get the ESR, some people don't. So that depends on the candidate, basically. So detailed ESRs of this people, if you look at this, some ESRs that I've analyzed for people who have scored 750 plus or verbal 40 plus, you will notice one common theme that you need to get around 15 700 level questions correct. Okay. If your aim is to score between 700 and 750, you need to get about 10 to 12 700 level questions correct. If your score aim, I don't think a lot of people will have this as their target score, but still this is a target score. You need to get a decent accuracy in the medium questions, and 700 level questions, even if you don't get a lot of them correct, you can still get there. But if you are currently in the score range of 600 to 650, this basically means you are only getting the medium questions correct, which is 650 level questions correct. You're not getting the 700 level questions correct. This is the data that I have calculated from the ESRs, basically. So if you are already scoring a 670 or more, as in if you are already in this particular bracket or this particular bracket and you want to move to this bracket, there are a lot of data points. There are a lot of variables which come into picture. For example, I need to understand the time available with you, because if you have, let's say, a 20-day window versus a 3-month window versus a 2-month window, I'll have different plan of actions for you. So medium hard, Tanisha, means 700 level questions and medium means 650 level questions. Let's put it that way, broadly. So factors to be considered: time available. To create the right action plan, you also have to look at your target score, because if your target score is a 720 versus a 750 or a 760, you have to think of the action plan in a very different way. For example, today I spoke to a guy whose target score is a 680. I point blank told him that you should not worry about RC at all. Just focus your attention on SC and CR, because those are his strengths and his quant is good. And he needs only a 680, around 690 around score, and he doesn't need a 720, 740. So I have to take into account target score also to tell you how much effort or where do you need to focus your effort. I also need to understand what kind of resources you have utilized, because obviously we have our team has about 30 years of experience in the industry. So based on what resources we have used, we have looked at all the different resources. So we know what exactly are the strengths and weaknesses of it. So we will have an idea that, okay, these are the things that you will be good at, these are the things you will not be good at. So you have to work on those weak areas accordingly. We also consider your strengths and weaknesses, not just quant and verbal level, but multiple levels. For example, if you are at a level of 45 in quant, I'll suggest a different strategy. If you're at a level of 40 in quant, I'll suggest a different strategy. But if you're at a level of 48, I'll suggest a different strategy altogether. We also need to look at the methods that you use. If you are actually using the meaning-based approach or pre-thinking properly, probably we'll have to look at a different solution in that case. Like, how do you improve on that method? By different solution, I don't mean we'll tell you a different method, but how to actually improvise on that. And we also try to look at your learning style. So obviously these are factors which are very, very complex factors to understand. So generally we recommend that you have a one-on-one discussion with our team and understand how to create an action plan once we get to know from you what your data points are. So if you are currently in the score range of 670 or more, feel free to connect with me to understand how our team can help you in achieving your GMAT score, how the GMATWhiz team can help you. You can use this link to directly connect with me. I like to interact and understand and give you an action plan which is personalized for you. And by personalized, I don't mean just overall activities, at least help you understand what are the root causes and how can you work on it, how much time you will take overall. So you can connect with me using this link if you want to, but I'm still trying my best to generalize basically for all other people who are at least below the score range of 670 or around that, how to kind of create a proper action plan. But please understand that this is a generalization, which will obviously not take into account a lot of factors. Because I have, when I look at multiple factors, I'm able to give a better recommendation to you. In many cases, my recommendations are very different from what I've given to similar students also in the past, even if one small factor changes. So let's focus on the generalized thing. The main objective should be that you should approach different sections in a different fashion. You should not approach quant and verbal in the same way. They are different from each other and had to be tackled differently. So for verbal, for example, I recommend students to focus on a module at a time. So my focus when I speak to them or create an action plan or our team speaks to them is that you focus on one module at a time. And modules are SC, CR, and RC. So you take up one module, you work on that module, and accordingly you move forward. And what is the sequence that we teach? I'll talk about that as well. In quant, on the other hand, it is better to do one topic at a time, because if you are basically like doing one module like number properties together and algebra later, then there is a lot of interdependency that exists in quant between number properties and algebra. So you can't do that. So it's better to focus on topic-wise improvement, basically identifying where you're weak. So in quant, what we generally recommend is that you take up 30 question quiz. Again, this is what I recommend for people who are at a level of 45 plus and in the range of 45 to 48 generally. 48 plus I also recommend slightly different skills. But in this range, what I recommend is that you first take up a 30 question quiz for number properties, algebra, geometry, and word problems individually. Again, this is something which I'll cover in the slides also. And from there, you kind of look at the conceptual gaps and the application gaps. Anything below 60% is conceptual gap, between 60 and 85 is application gap. But you have to make sure that the questions, the 30 questions that you are taking, has a good mix of all the topics and all the difficulty levels also. Now, if this is done on the GMATWhiz platform, we have a platform called WhizQuiz, where if you take the 30 question quiz, it automatically gives you the right mix of questions and the right difficulty levels as well. So then what happens is that this data is much more accurate. In fact, you don't even have to do this manual analysis. Our platform automatically color codes the conceptual gaps in red for you and the application gaps in blue for you. And the other areas where you don't have any gaps in quant are covered as green. So you know what are the various areas. And for the red areas, you can work on your conceptual knowledge, as in go to the module and do everything for it. For the blue areas, you can just do the boosters. So boosters is a file where we teach you how to approach or solve questions in a methodical fashion. And we also show you what are the different ways in which a particular question can ever be tested on GMAT, basically. Okay, so this is just an overview. But the idea is that you need to have a proper baselining done. But if your score is less than 45, then it's important that you do a slightly different, follow a different approach overall. So how to improve your verbal score? Let's talk about that. So the first thing is take up one sectional test for SC, 30 questions, one for CR, 30 questions. For RC, you can take anywhere between 20 or 30 questions. That's up to you. I'm okay with 20 questions also. Give yourself about, if SC is your weakest section, then about 1 minute 45 seconds per question. If SC is one of your stronger sections on average, give about 1 minute 30 seconds. For the rest, give yourself 2 minutes per question. Okay, that's how you do it. Once you have done these quizzes, then you break down the modules SC, CR, and RC into 2 buckets. Group 1 is where your score is less than 70 percentile. Group 2 is where your score is greater than 70 percentile. Okay, now group 1 obviously is your weaker area. Let's take an example. Let's say you take these quizzes and your sentence correction score is 80%, CR is 30%, RC is 50%. Now, obviously, your CR and RC fall into your weaker areas and SC falls into your stronger area. So this SC you can tackle later. You need to tackle CR and RC first. But 70% is the benchmark. Remember that. If your SC is also less than 70% and it is at 60%, for example, okay, I would have recommended you to do SC first, then CR, then RC. The right order of learning is this: SC, then CR, then RC, because this helps you in incremental learning. If you remember my discussion, in SC, you understand how to read and understand individual sentences better. This helps you in contextualizing things later. So if you do SC first, that helps. So if your score is less than 70 percentile in SC takes the preference. If it is not, it is more than 70 percentile, then you can do SC later. The idea is in the weaker sections, you should follow the order SC, CR, RC in that way. So if SC and RC are in the weaker sections and CR is the stronger one, then first do SC, then do RC, irrespective of the scores in SC and RC. Even if SC score is higher than RC score, do SC before RC. Okay. Now, how to tackle modules in the weak area? There are two steps to it. Step one is what I'm showing you. Step two is going to be same between weaker area and the stronger area. So step one is that you need to take from the sectional test that you have taken of 20-30 questions, try to see in which topics your score is 60% or less, as in the weak conceptual gaps, as I was telling you earlier also. So if let's say modifiers in SC, or let's say assumption type of questions in CR, okay, don't mind my handwriting, but I'm hoping that it's a little legible or you're able to relate to it. So so if your score is less than 60% in these topics, you need to first work on these topics. You need to go through the concepts for these topics. For the other topics, you can skip the conceptual knowledge also. It's not that important. But at least for these topics, where your score is less than 60%, it might mean that you're getting some medium questions wrong or some easy questions wrong also. So it's better to work on the conceptual understanding of these ones. Okay, just give me 10 seconds, guys. I'm gonna have a sip of water. Just give me 10 seconds. All right, guys. I hope you guys are enjoying the session. I'm putting it all in, so I had to take that sip of water. But okay, so coming back to this again, you guys need to first work on the conceptual knowledge wherever your score is less than 60%. Okay, and this again, if you are using GMATWhiz as a breeze, our platform automatically guides you on this, identifying the gaps. You can go through the data and all on the dashboard. But even if you don't go through the data, let the AI suggest you, it automatically recommends you a plan of action based on your concept weaknesses. So if these are your concept weaknesses, fine-tuned gap weaknesses, at a click of a button, you can, like for the concept weaknesses, you can actually click on the button revise, basically, and it will automatically create a video quiz, video format module for you, where you can just work on the video lessons for this file, for triangles, rectangles, estimation for the weak areas for the student. So at a click of a button, you get to work on the videos. Then at a click of a button, you can create a quiz on this aspect as well. Okay, so the idea is that you first need to make sure that you work on the conceptual gaps on the weak areas. And ideally, if you have one module in your weak area in verbal, about 30-40 hours of effort is what you would require for it. I'm giving you an approximate idea so that it can help you in planning. Again, the exact numbers will vary from one student to another. So in case you want to discuss your particular use case and take our team's help in helping you get to your target score, please feel free to schedule a call with me. But in general, 30 to 40 hours of effort if you put on a weak area where your score is less than 60 percentile, you can expect your verbal score to move up by 4 points. This is what we have seen over the years as the average improvement. If at all you work on just one area which is in a weak area, your overall score can improve by 20 to 30 points, 30 on the higher side, 20 on the lower side, depending on where you are. So 4-point jump in verbal is what you can expect with 30-40 hours of effort in the right direction. Okay, now how to work on your strong areas? First, focus on learning the right approach for that particular module. Now, if you remember, for the weak areas, I told you there are two steps. First step is going through the concepts where you're weak. That will hardly take you about maximum of 8 to 10 hours. But the second step is also same as what you will do for the strong areas. You'll have to learn the right approach for that module. So if SC is in your weak area, first you will work on the concept gaps for SC, and then you will work on the application gaps. So you'll also try to develop the right approach for that particular module. And then you will master the approach on each topic within that module. And then after that, you should focus on fine tuning and taking sectional tests. So the idea is learn, master the approach on every topic, make sure that you're able to apply it on every topic, and then focus on timing. Please understand that when you're learning the approach and mastering the approach on every topic, till this point, your timing may not be very good. The idea over here is to have a high accuracy, get the questions right, and check the method. Basically, be consistent with checking the method with the solutions. And after that, let's say when you're done with this, even if your timing is, let's say, on the higher side, let's say 2 minutes 30 seconds for CR, over here you now start focusing on reducing the time. Then you take a test of CR, reduce the time gradually to 2 minutes 20 seconds, then reduce it gradually to 2 minutes, then reduce it gradually to 2 minutes 10 seconds and 2 minutes, and so on. Basically, that's the idea. So Arushi, in free trial users, you get a study plan, you get to see our platform, and you also get 10% of the course content, but you don't get access to obviously the entire course as well completely. So if you want the access to the entire course, you'll have to take up a paid package. And we have a 2-month plan starting from very like a small price point, affordable price point of $149, where you get the entire course and even access to a mentor with whom you can connect every 2 weeks to get some strategy advice around your progress. So you can check out our services. You can check out our free trial. I've shared the link, Arushi, in the chat. So you can do that if you want to. Okay, so that's how you work on your strong areas. And for this, working on the approach and mastering the approach part, we have used this concept booster file like in the coursework. Again, whichever course you are using, if you have something similar, it's good. But the idea is that in the GMATWhiz platform, we have this booster file where we handpick questions which cover different areas, and you get to solve only one question at a time. Right after the video that you watch, you'll get to concept learning. You will get the second step, and you get to analyze the solution right there. So you look at the question, you just solve one question, and since you have just solved that question, your approach that you followed is very fresh in your mind. If you now refer to the solution, you're able to see the difference in your approach vis-a-vis the right approach. And with this analysis that you do on this particular question, you then move to the next question. Now, when you move to the next question with this analysis, you're able to apply that learning on the next question. After solving the question, you will see the solution of question 2. You can improve your approach further from it, apply it in the third question, and so on. So this concept boosters are the most important part of our course. Any of you who is an existing GMAT student, please focus on reviewing the solutions, at least for all the concept booster questions properly. And those who are going to take the course also, please focus on concept booster. It's more important than anything else. And every question is handpicked, and it covers all different varieties in which GMAT can test you on that particular topic. Okay, so you'll find it in every topic, like prime numbers, you see these two are concept boosters, basically. So how much time do you need to improve your strong area? In order to improve your strong area, for one topic, one module, let's say if CR or RC is in your strong area, one module will require about 15 to 20 hours of effort. The incremental improvement that you can overall think of it, if you have 2 modules in this, is 30 to 40 hours, and your incremental improvement will be about a 4-point improvement. So if you have one module in your strong area, by working on your strong area, you can improve your verbal score by up to 2 points, is what we have seen on an average. And this should get your verbal score up to 20-30 points above if you have 2 areas in your strong areas. Okay, so you can do these calculations yourself to kind of understand how much improvement you can expect. Now, how about improving quant score? I touched upon this angle a little earlier. So as I said, 30 questions on each of these modules is what you take, and then work on topics with accuracy less than 60%. Revisit the concept for these topics and practice at least 10 questions. So follow that advice which I told you a little earlier. Now, if your score is less than 45, then you don't even need to, you should not even start with this diagnostics right now, because this is not the right stage for you. If your score is in the low 40s or something in quant, then it is better to let the Whiz help you automatically. So in our platform itself, you will automatically get diagnostic quizzes from time to time that will test your skill level, and the concepts that you are going to be good at, as in you know already the concepts, the Whiz will identify it and take it out of your course. So you will focus your attention only on the concepts that you are weak in, and this way you will then move to the booster lessons and learn the approach properly. Okay, so how much time is required to work on improving your quant? About 1 point effort in quant improvement is requires about 8 to 10 hours of effort, basically. And 1 point improvement is 8 to 10 hours. So 3 to 4 point improvements is somewhere between 20 to 40 hours of effort, but it can increase your score by basically a very good, 3 to 4 point improvements is 25 to 40 hours of effort, and it can improve your score by 20 to 40 points overall. Okay. So now let's talk about the last element. Now, if you're clear with the exam strategy, if you have any questions, feel free to ask me. And I know I have given you a generalized example. So if you want to discuss your personal case and understand how our team can help you, you can then connect with me using this link to talk about your use case in details. But in general, I've tried to generalize all the learnings that are possible in this session. Now let's focus on the D-Day advice. So if you remember, the last point in the 5 steps that we talked about was the D-Day performance. So how should you pace yourself on the day of the test? Because the exact day, you have to make sure that you convert your scores into the real score. So first thing is that whatever test taking strategy or what I'm recommending, you should follow that on few mocks first. Okay. And if you want to understand the test taking in detail, then you can actually watch this webinar that I have taken on it. It's a detailed webinar on test taking strategy. I'm giving the link in the chat for all of you as well. So first, apply it on a few mocks and then apply it on the actual GMAT. Now, what should be your exam day pacing? Okay, so pace each quarter correctly. Pause whenever you are under pressure. So it's very important. Pacing is an important part. I'll touch upon it a little bit. But whenever you're under pressure, because see, on the day of the test, you will be under pressure. You'll feel anxious. Whenever you're under pressure, pause. Don't continue working. Please make sure that you pause, take some break, put your pen down, lean back on the chair, relax for a minute, and calm yourself down. Then only start solving questions. Because if you are not calm down, if you're anxious, you're working at 50%, 60% of your capacity. And trust me, guys, 50, 60% of X, whatever time is left with you, is always more than 100% of X minus 30 seconds, unless that's the last 1 minute that you are at. So please understand that. Being calm in the test is very important. Don't continue solving questions if you're under pressure. Okay, and order the sections appropriately. Whether you should start with quant or verbal, that is also very, very important. So watch this webinar. I would strongly recommend it. I've covered a lot of things in the webinar. Obviously, I can't cover everything today. I've already gone to 1 hour 40 minutes and still a lot of discussion is left. So I've tried my best to cover the important factors. The others you can check out from this session. Now, some of the common pacing strategies that people follow for verbal. Some people follow the linear pacing strategy that let's give almost equal 18 minutes for every quarter. In my opinion, that's a very bad strategy. Some people focus on a starting heavy strategy that they give about 20 minutes to first 2 quarters, and then whatever time is left with them is what they utilize. And by the way, this should not be 16 minutes, 18 minutes. This should be about 16 minutes because the verbal has about 65 minutes only. So approximately equal timing is what I meant to say. Now, in reality, what should be your timing strategy or pacing strategy for verbal? For quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3, quarter 5, this should be the average time that you should be spending. Why? Because the question difficulty level will go up as you move forward. So you need to accommodate that as well. And obviously, and again, I'm not discussing it in depth because I've covered this in the test taking strategy session, but this is just to give you an overview of it. Obviously, your timing for SCCR and RC has to be different. So these are the baseline times that you see. You need to make some adjustment of about 20 points upwards or downwards based on your strong area. Just to give you an idea, SC was my strongest suit in GMAT. I scored a 94 percentile in sentence correction, and my average time per question in SC was close to 1 minute 10 seconds using the meaning-based approach. So stronger sections, you need to downward adjust the time. For the weaker sections, you would take more time. For SCR, for example, I won't say I was bad at CR. I still scored, I think, 81 percentile or something. But my average time was about 2 minutes 10 seconds. So obviously, you have to adjust it upwards for the weaker sections. And always ensure that you are giving the right amount of time to the right difficulty level. For example, I can't say that every SC question I solve in 1 minute 10 seconds. If you give me a 700 level question, I will still take 1 minute 30, 1 minute 40 seconds to solve it, but I'll get it right. So the difficulty level wise also the timing should vary. Okay. Now what about quant? Similar thing for quant. As you move forward, the difficulty level changes. So you have to accommodate for time in the same fashion. Now, if you see in both the sections, I have mentioned that the last quarter you will have very less time left. So this is the per average time which is left per question. Doesn't mean that you will try to solve every question in 1 minute 20 seconds. So what I'm trying to say is, let's say you are in a situation where you have 9 minutes left on the clock and you have 9 questions to attempt. Okay, instead of trying to solve everything, try to focus on 4 or 5 questions out of this and give all the 9 minutes or close to 8 minute 45 seconds or 8 minute 30 seconds to these 4 or 5 questions. Get these questions right, and whatever is left, just guess those questions. Just do guess. Don't leave them incomplete, but guess those questions. Don't try to get everything correct. That's a very bad strategy. Okay, so same thing you have to do on quant. Okay, so in quant, again, each difficulty level will consume the right amount of time. Even the strongest persons are like quant expert, or let's say the strategy expert Shakib has scored a 760 on GMAT recently, and he has gotten a quant 51 in his attempt. And even in his case, he had to spend 3 minutes or upwards on a few questions which were very difficult. So for a harder question, you would need to spend some time. So it's always logical. From third quarter onwards, you can identify your comfort areas and be selective from third quarter onwards if you have already spent time on your uncomfortable area. What I mean by that is, for example, my uncomfortable area was geometry, especially the circles, triangles part of it. So when I moved to the third quarter onwards, from third quarter, what I did was that I was selectively doing geometry questions. I used to give 2 minutes to a geometry question, or at the end of 2 minutes, I used to ask myself, am I in a position to get the answer correctly in the next 30 seconds? If I was not confident, I would just mark the answer randomly at that stage itself. I would not invest more time into it. Okay. And don't take simple questions too lightly, especially the DS ones. There is a tendency of falling into a trap. And in the beginning, at least, if you are able to solve the questions in less than 1 minute 30 seconds, if you're a quant whiz, you will be able to solve questions in like 45 seconds to 1 minute also. Don't try to save time in quarter one. Okay. Whatever time is remaining from 1 minute 30 seconds, if you know two methods to solve the question, use those two other method in this timeline itself. Don't push it beyond 130 also, but use this the other method to verify the answer, because if you make a lot of mistakes in the beginning in quant, even one or two mistakes can harm you a lot overall. Okay, so that's about it from my side in the session. I'm opening the session up for an open-ended Q&A. I'm more than happy to answer any of your questions that you might have. If you want to connect with me later on, you guys can reach out to me on the email ID, which is visible on your screen. You can also connect with me on WhatsApp on the number. I generally prefer that you connect using this link by blocking a time on my calendar, because that way I'm able to stick to the schedule properly. But WhatsApp messages take second preference for me. So whenever I'm free, I'll definitely reply to your WhatsApp message. But you can definitely reach out to me on personally on WhatsApp. This is my personal WhatsApp number, and you can also check out the GMATWhiz platform if you want to. But if you have any questions now, I'm opening it up for an open-ended Q&A. I'm going to be here for the next 2-3 minutes or more if you want me to answer any other questions for you. And I hope you guys found this session helpful. In case you found the session helpful, do give it a like. Do share this with your friends and colleagues who are preparing for GMAT. I hope they will also benefit from it, basically. So give it a like or a thumbs up if you found this session really helpful. I'll really like to see your thoughts around how the session was or any other questions that you might have. Thank you, Bhavna. I am happy to know that you found the session informative. I've tried my best to cover multiple angles and like the main root problems that exist. Obviously, I can't cover everything, and in fact, this session has gone more than like 1 hour 45 minutes already. Last few times I have tried to do a session in 1 hour 20 minutes, but this time I just thought that let's keep it a little longer, but try to cover as much as possible. So I'm happy that you found the session helpful. Thank you so much. Any questions from your side, Bhavna, or anyone else has any questions? I'm more than happy to take it up. Okay. Thank you, Arushi. Happy to know that the session was helpful. And those of you who don't want to ask a question right now, you're that is shy, but there's a slightly more personal question that you want to ask, you can connect with me using this link later on. On verbal, I'm able to solve any question in 3 to 4 minutes, but I can't seem to answer in under 2 minutes any advice. So, Salma, this is happening with you. You're definitely rereading information multiple times. That basically means you're not understanding the information correctly in the first read. So your style of reading is what needs to improve. And that's why I would recommend you need to focus on breaking down sentences better, understanding how to contextualize it better. And this is something which you can learn from the sentence correction course of GMATWhiz. So my recommendation would be to spend more time on the questions then. Most likely out of this 3-4 minutes that you are spending, about 50% of more of the time is spent on the answer choice elimination, which is the wrong number. Ideally, if you ask anyone who is good in verbal, if you ask me, anyone who has scored well on verbal, they will tell you that their time on answer choice elimination, percentage of time that they spend on answer choice elimination is about 25 to 30% of the total time that they spend on the entire question. So if this is what is happening with you, Salma, that's most likely the cause. You can agree, disagree with me on this, but yeah, that's most likely the cause which I can think of. Otherwise, you can connect with me one-on-one discussion. Okay, happy to know that is true. You're welcome, Salman. Thank you, Siddhant, for the comment. I'm happy to know that you found the session helpful. I told you in the beginning also that even if you're a first-time test taker, you're going to learn a lot. So good that you have joined the session in the beginning itself. So do give it a like, and share it with your colleagues who are preparing for the GMAT as well. Okay, guys, so I don't see any other question. I'm assuming that the session really went well. You guys were able to find the answers to your question. For any other questions, feel free to reach out to me on piyush@gmatwiz.com. And in case you're interested, at GMATWhiz, we offer world's only truly personalized course where you get a personalized study plan, a proper, dedicated, adaptive course, which comes with real-time improvement modules, and every one of our students gets a dedicated mentor. In fact, that's one of the biggest reasons why when it comes to average score improvement, our average score improvement is very close to 100 points. And you can look at the average score improvement of some of our competitors. So in case you want to reach out to us for GMAT preparation, feel free to reach out to us on this details. I'm more than happy to take up the discussion forward. Okay, all the best, guys. I wish all the best to all of you who want to score 740, 750, and I wish that some of you who have attended the session today get your target scores and come back to me and we interview your case and we talk about that. That will be really, really great to hear. So all the best from my side. It's Piyush Beriwala signing off from GMATWhiz today.